This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about omelets in Denver, logoless and colorblind football teams, and First Amendment flag freedoms. All that and more as we watch Season 5, Episode 12 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me as always is my co-host and my brother. What's up, Imran?
Hi, Sophia. What's up, cousin listener? I'm doing great. You know, it's a Sunday in late October here in America. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
The country is enjoying their two favorite pastimes, football and gambling.
Football and gambling.
Happens every couple of months this time of year, so all the way through February.
You're talking about American football.
American football. Yes.
Well, that is very appropriate as we record this on a Sunday evening in October, because today we're talking about Perfect Strangers Season 5, Episode 12, entitled Everyone in the Pool.
Hey, the water's great. Everybody jump in.
Everybody jump in. Of course, we find out more from the TV guide description. We find out we're not talking about a swimming pool. As we find out from the TV guide, in this episode, Balky chalks up his 5 straight football pool wins to sheepherder's intuition. And Larry has a plan to capitalize on that intuition.
See, some things never change. Football and gambling and betting on football, it's never going to go out of style. This is a timeless thing. And our cast this episode will show us why it's so much fun. Of course, this Bronson Pinchot as Balky, Markland Baker as Larry, Rebecca Arthur as Marianne, Belita Moreno is in this as Lydia Markham, and Mr. Sam Gorpley, played by Sam Anderson.
No Jennifer this episode.
No, I wonder what she was doing. She was on an important flight route that Marianne couldn't get and is jealous, probably.
Maybe. This episode aired on December 15th, 1989, and this was the last new episode to be taped in the 80s. The rest of that year, they did reruns through the holiday season, and the next new episodes would be run in 1990.
This is the last Perfect Strangers of the 80s. The last new one.
Perfect Strangers of the 80s.
Because over the holidays, the networks would never play. You'd have the Christmas specials, no new episodes of programming because they figure nobody's watching it. They want to watch that movie with James Stewart over and over again. It's a Wonderful Life is on every channel. So that's crazy. Yeah, this is the last. Say goodbye to the 80s. Hell, next time we meet, it's going to be the 90s.
Okay, everyone in the pool. Let's get into this. Act 1, we begin in the apartment, and we have Balky running in through the front door. He's just come from school because he's from community college or whatever he's going to, college. Because he's got his books with him, and he is very excited because he has just heard the greatest joke it's night school. And he wants to tell Cousin Larry this great joke that he's heard, and he says, wait a minute, let me decompose myself. He means compose myself.
Compose or decompose.
And he's so excited, he's screaming, Cousin. And he says, okay, listen to this. I just drove in from L.A. and boy, are my arms tired. And then he starts to laugh, but then he stops. He's like, wait, no, I didn't tell that right. Wait a minute.
And, at this point, I think everybody knows this joke. So we're not going to tell you what he means because it is kind of a great running gag throughout the episode.
Yes.
But you know how the joke goes. We'll find out. And meanwhile, Larry's sitting at the dining room table. He's got all these papers. And he's like, Balky, don't bother me now. I'd love to hear it, but I'm busy. I'm making my selections for the football pool at work. And Balky goes, football pool? And Larry says, a football pool. And Balky just looks at him and goes, well, feed me garlic and call me stinky. I love that. That's great. It also keeps the vampires away, right? He goes, I didn't even know there was a pool at work, let alone one large enough to play football in.
That's what football pool would sound like to someone who's never heard of a football
pool. Where you play football. That's called water polo also.
And Larry says no, and he explains what a football pool is, and he says for $1, it's like a lottery. For $1, you pick the teams you think are going to win on Sunday, and whoever picks the most winners wins.
Gambling.
It's gambling. It's office gambling.
It's socially accepted office gambling.
It's team building.
Yes, it's team bonding.
Yes.
But it's also gambling.
And then Balky hits us with a
wow.
And he says, and he asks, this is some good alliteration. He says, what does the winner who picks the most winners wind up winning?
Wind up winning.
And Larry says $65. And Balky says, get out of the city. $65. And of course, Balky now wants to play. And he pulls out a crumpled dollar from his pocket and he says, here's my dollar. And Larry gives him it's like a card, like a lottery.
It's your picks. It's your sheet with all the games on, and you got to pick who wins. And Balky's like, what do I do now? And Larry says, here, just pick your teams. And Balky takes the sheet, and he picks up a pencil.
And starts circling things
while Larry is trying to go, Balky, keep in mind, picking winning football teams is very complicated. Meanwhile, Balky's just circling things willy-nilly.
So
he goes, if you have any questions, let me know. Don't be afraid to ask. And then by this point, Balky's done, and he just goes, why do I turn this in? So without any thought, Balky has circled all the teams he thinks is going to win, just like that, matter-of-factly. Amazing.
And so that's his first. He filled out his first pool card, and we cut to the next day, and we're at the Chronicle in the basement. And Balky is following some stranger around, and he's like, no, that wasn't it. I got it now. I just took a bus in from Denver, and boy, are my arms tired.
Oh, he misses again.
And then the guy just gives him a weird, and then the guy gives him a look, and Balky's like, no, that wasn't it. And the guy just walks away.
I like the version that is presented to us on Amazon Freebies captions. It's actually
bus in.
I just took a Bosnian from Denver. And boy, are my arms tired. Now that is a weird, absurd joke. That is just some absurdist humor.
I took a Bosnian from Denver.
Well, remember, because the Maposian taxi is you ride on the dude's shoulders.
Yeah.
So maybe the Bosnian Uber is similar. I just took a Bosnian in from Denver.
I think he said bus. Though.
I think he said bus too, but the
it sounded like Bosnian.
And the captions said Bosnian, and I was like, what?
Captions aren't always right.
No, they're not, but they're hilarious.
And then the guy walks away, and Balky says to Larry, boy, comedy's tough.
I think that's a funny meta line, too.
Tough.
Because comedy is tough, but they make it look so easy. But it's tough.
And this is like meta comedy.
Yeah.
This is like comedy actors talking about a joke. Okay. So then Mr. Gorpley enters the scene, and we find out that Balky has won the football pool. And Lydia's there, and Larry's there, and they're all saying, Balky won the football pool? Balky won the football pool? And then Balky says, Balky won the football pool?
They're all shocked.
And then he says, how much did he win? And Gorpley says that it would have been $65. And then he starts to say, if it weren't for that darn immigrant rule.
Oh, boy. He's trying to screw him out of the $65. I love this. Yeah, Lydia stays up for him. She goes, Sam, give him his money, or I will print the letter your ex-wife wrote in my advice column. You know, the one she signed shortchanged in Chicago.
Whoa.
Oh, that's a little racy.
What that's about. And Gorpley's like, okay. And he gives in. He says, I guess we can waive the rule.
He's so slimy. He will try to screw over Balky, whatever.
And yet
he can.
they keep inviting him to stuff, and he still is a jerk all the time.
Yeah. Except at Christmas.
Balky is very excited. He takes the money. He hugs Gorpley. And then Gorpley says to Lydia, oh, I heard you got 3 this week. Are you getting outside help? And then he laughs.
Yeah, he scoffs.
A little swipe at Lydia. And then he leaves. And Lydia goes, I'm going to print the letter anyway.
She has the power. Good revenge. And then we have a song alert.
She leaves.
And song alert. Balky is counting his money, singing a song that goes, money makes the world go round, boom, 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 and swinging his hips.
Which, of course, is from the musical Cabaret, very popular musical.
Yeah, and makes the audience go wild whenever Bronson swings his hips like that.
Yes.
They go nuts.
And then Larry takes a look at Balky's card, and he's like, he sees that Balky picked all 13 winners.
That is statistically
not only
impossible.
Like the most number of winning teams, but every single one.
I don't know how. That's crazy. That's crazy. Uncanny.
I guess there are 13 games on a Sunday night.
Generally, how did Balky do this?
How did he do that? Larry asks him, and Balky says, it must have been my sheep herder's intuition.
Oh, of course.
And Larry's like, what? And Belgy says, it makes perfect sense. And he like takes the card back. He looks at all the games and the teams, and he says, obviously a Bronco can beat a Colt.
Yeah.
So he's taking all these as like literal animals.
Yes, this is great.
Which is a funny thing and has been, people have made jokes about that too. Like, I want to see a real Bronco and a Colt. Yeah. And so he said, obviously a Bronco can beat a Colt and a lion could beat a Bengal. After all, the lion is king of the jungle. And then he says, and I took the Bills over the Chargers because no matter how much you keep charging, sooner or later, you have to pay the bill.
You know, you can't argue with his logic
Very
here.
logical.
You can't argue with any of this. It makes perfect sense. And it just worked out.
Larry's not buying it, though. Larry, again, is being so condescending. He's like, Belky, that's a cute little system.
Cute.
But I wouldn't plan on you being lucky enough to win another pool with it.
And then Balky mocks him and mocks his voice. And he goes, well, I'd rather have a cute little system than an empty little wallet.
This is true. And then he like dances away.
He walks away in the background. You can see him dancing behind him.
Funny. That's a weird shot, too, that we
he's
don't
out of
see
focus.
often.
Yeah.
He's in the background dancing away.
And it's the tight on Larry. So he's getting all cocky. It's great.
All right. Then we fast forward like 4 weeks.
4 or 5
weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks, I think.
Time jump.
We time jump, and it's still football season, and we're still at the Chronicle, and every week there's still a football pool. And Gorpley kind of like shuffles out of his office, and he's grumpy.
His shoulders are all slumped and stuff,
His shoulders are slumped.
He's definitely annoyed.
And he gives Larry the pick sheet for that week's football pool, and Larry's like, I need one for Balky, too. And Gorpley's like, why? Isn't winning the last 5 weeks in a row enough for him?
Okay, that is statistically impossible.
Then we
He
find
wins
out
5
that
times
Balky just keeps picking all the winners, and he has won for 5 weeks.
Sheep herder's intuition is working.
And we don't know. Like, I want to know, has it been all 13 picks every week or
That's
whatever?
a good point.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to get them all, but I feel like he's been getting all 13 every week, which is crazy. And Gorpley leaves, and Larry immediately goes to his phone, and he calls his buddy named Tom. Why is he calling Tom? Tom knows a bookie. Larry wants the number of this bookie. What's the bookie's name? He says, The Mole. And then Larry pauses and goes, is that a family name? But he's like, I need the number. I want to play some bets. I got a sure thing. And he writes down the number. Now, we know Larry has a little bit of a gambling problem.
Well, Larry likes money, okay?
He likes money,
just
likes winning.
Gets carried away with winning and money.
Remember the babes in Babylon and Vegas?
Yes.
Vegas. No, this is the problem with the Larry Appleton. He loses control.
And you'd think that he would know better than to even enter this pool in the first place. And do we have to explain what a bookie is?
No, he explains it later.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that.
Got it. So we know that Larry has a gambling problem, and we're about to find out how far he will go with these football picks. This is a little bit like Back to the Future.
Oh, with the sports almanac?
Sports almanac.
Yeah, Balky is his living sports almanac.
This was a big theme in the 80s and 90s.
That's a good point.
Media, right?
That is a good point.
Sports betting and...
Well, it still is. We'll get to that. I mean, it's still a big thing everywhere. It's just a little bit different.
Okay. Then Balky enters the basement and...
From the back room, and there's something on his shirt.
Oh, yeah. He enters the basement, and his clothes are, let's say... messy. We'll find out. His clothes have a lot of things spilled on them.
Well, you see, he walks up and there's black handprints all over his shirt.
Yes.
And he's got a mess on his pants.
Yes.
And it's very obvious, but he does not address this.
He doesn't address it. He enters and he says, "Cousin, I got it now."
He's still trying to nail the joke.
I just flew in from L.A.
Okay.
And boy, am I tired.
Oh, he was so close.
Which kind of still makes the joke, but it's not.
It's not as obvious.
Right joke.
Yes, it's closer, but does not nail it. And then Balky's like, no, it's missing something. You're so close.
And then Larry looks at him and he's like, "What happened to you?" And again, we have these black handprints all over his shirt and like some other stains on his pants. And Balky says, "This just isn't my day." And he tells him that he was in the press room And he was telling the guys in the press room that he won the football pool again. He says, and they were just slapping me on the back and slapping me on the front. And I guess they forgot they had ink all over their hands. And then Larry's like, well, what's this yellow and green stuff on your pants? And Balky's like, that would be a Denver omelet.
Just random food dish on his
He said
pants.
he was in the cafeteria telling Millie, the waitress, that he won the football pool again. And she accidentally dropped the omelet into his lap, hot out of the microwave. What's a Denver omelet?
A Denver omelet is, it's the omelet you get at
Denver?
No, at like what's that diner? All the diners. First of all, that's not the part that bugged me. Who's microwaving omelets?
Yeah.
That can't be good.
Maybe it was being reheated.
But at like Denny's.
Oh yeah, bell peppers, ham, onions,
cheddar cheese. It's your standard omelet. I don't know why it's called the Denver
I was
omelet.
in Denver last week, and I
You
didn't have a Denver
You
omelet.
should have got a Denver omelet in Denver. I bet it doesn't even come from Denver.
In Denver, it's just called an omelet.
Yes, in Denver.
Ding.
They're like, you mean just an omelet? Yes,
Yes.
I'm in Denver. Can I? Historians have speculated this dish was originally served on a bread as a sandwich created by 19th century cattle drivers in the American
Denver.
West, or by Chinese railroad cooks as sort of a transportable egg foo young. Oh, and then a breadless version was made, and then it became known as the Denver or Western omelet also.
Oh, Western omelet.
Ah, wow. Interesting
Well,
history
I was there,
of the Denver
and
omelet.
I should have included that in our Denver trivia last week.
Anyways,
I didn't.
people are perturbed that Balky keeps winning, clearly. They're putting ink on him. They're throwing food at him. And Larry is very urgent to give Balky his football sheet so he can make his pick, so he can place this bet. He goes, why don't you fill this out? And they walk over to Balky's desk, and Balky goes, cousin, I can't. Somebody accidentally broke the points off all my pencils as he grabs his cup of pencils and holds them up.
And they're all
the
broken.
tips are broken. And Larry's like, here, use mine. And he starts to make his picks when Lydia comes in. And she's also mad. She's like, well, Balky, you're going to suck all the fun out of this week's pool again? He goes, no, I was just about to make my picks. And she goes, oh, can I borrow your pencil? And he goes, sure, of course. He's going to let her borrow the pencil. So she takes the pencil and she pushes it down on the desk so hard that the tip breaks. And she goes, oh, sorry, and hands it back to him and just walks away.
And then Balky's like, wait a minute, cousin. Everything is becoming crystal light.
That's a funny play
He
on
means
words.
crystal clear.
Yes.
And crystal light, of course, was a famous,
Very popular
low-calorie
diet
drink
in the
powder
80s.
that you put in your water.
Yes. Like before Gatorade and
Yeah,
before
and
like
it was probably back then. It was probably made with like some
Saccharin,
terrible
probably
fake
saccharin,
sugar
yes.
that would give you cancer.
But it was like, but the diet drink
Everybody drank
phase
Crystal Light.
fad. Yeah. Everything's becoming crystal light.
And then he realizes that every time the subject of football pool comes up, somebody has an accident, and that somebody is always Balky. And he says, I think those two things are connected.
And Larry, trying to shake him off, just goes, no, they're not. He's like, what do you think about the Bears this week? He just wants him to get down to business.
Wait, can we pause? First of all, why did it take Larry 5 whole weeks to
figure this
realize
out?
that
What do you
he
think after
should
like the
trust
second or
Bal-
third
yeah,
time?
exactly.
You're like, again?
5 is a bit much. He should have done it like a couple weeks prior.
Well, they got to establish that everyone is really annoyed with Balky at the same time. But
yeah, true.
and maybe, to Larry's defense, his willpower was holding out for 5 weeks, and finally he's like, "Okay,
It's
I have
too
this is
good,
a sure thing. I have this is not going to be bad. Like I know I'm going to win, so I have to do this. It's
Also-
not. It's different. Doesn't count."
Also, I've never worked in an office where everybody in the whole office was so into football. Or I don't think I've ever worked in an office with a football pool in the first place.
No,
Maybe
that's definitely a thing.
fantasy.
Trust me,
something.
I can tell you, it's a thing.
But like everyone, even Lydia gets into it. Everyone gets into it. I guess for $65.
For a dollar in
Yeah,
is a low barrier entry. And all you got to do is circle some things, and you win some money.
Okay. So anyway, Larry's still trying to get him to pick the winners. He says, what do you think of the Bears this week? And then Balky is still bothered about like how everyone's treating him. And he says, everyone's angry with me for winning the football pool. Maybe I won't play this week. And Larry's like, no, you can't quit now. And he says, because you made a commitment to play the football pool and you've got to live up to that. And Balky's like, a commitment to who? And Larry says, to everyone in the pool, to the game itself, to America, to everything this country stands for, why don't you just burn the flag while the law is still vague? And we'll come back to that in a minute. And Balky says, I don't want to burn the flag. I just don't want to play the football pool anymore. I don't want people to be angry with me.
Fair enough. He's got a good reason for not wanting to play. That line, why don't you just burn the flag while the law is still vague? It's very interesting. It is some topical humor on Perfect Strangers.
In 1989, there was, this was like a big topic, flag burning of the American flag. There was a case of Texas versus Johnson, which went all the way to the Supreme Court. And in that case, they raised the question of whether or not flag burning was protected as free speech under the Constitution.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that, in fact, burning the American flag was protected by the First Amendment. And that was a big controversial decision.
I kind of remember that.
And then later that year, Congress passed a statute called the Flag Protection Act, which would make burning the American flag a federal offense.
Whoa.
But that law was vetoed, struck down, and later attempts at similar amendments have also been defeated.
So currently, to this day,
burning the American flag is protected under the First Amendment as free speech.
I don't encourage it.
It's not illegal, but
it's
people
not illegal.
will get very mad.
Yes. Yes, let's not. We can listen. If you read the flag code and you see how some people treat
can't even
the
let it
flag,
touch the ground.
you would be very confused as to the same people.
But it's not illegal.
It's not illegal. Same people who are mad at that will like just blatantly disobey the flag code because they just don't know it. So, anyways, not illegal. Good to know. Good, weird topical joke that's still relevant too.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Okay, so
Larry continues his Larry manipulation, and he tells Balky that like if you quit now, everyone's gonna be more angry. And Balky's like, what if I tell them if I just quit, they'll have a better chance of winning? And Larry goes, they don't want to just win, Balky. They want to beat you. And Balky goes, beat me with a stick? He thinks he literally
says,
beat
it's
them.
just a game, cousin. Don't let them beat me.
And he grabs Larry's hands up like, oh, he thinks they're going to just beat him.
And Larry's like, no. They don't want to beat you with a stick. They want to beat you in the pool. And I tried to tell you it was complicated, but you insisted on playing. I'm afraid you're stuck.
No, you're stuck.
So why don't you just make your picks? He's just really trying to get him to make the picks again. And Balky's like, okay, I'll do it later. And he goes, right now, I got to go get the hash browns out of my pants.
I love that he leans into Larry. He goes, I got to get the hash browns out of my pants. I guess he doesn't want anybody to hear.
How did the hash browns get in his pants?
The Denver omelet always served with the side, of course. Right. So that one went one way, one went the other way.
1989 was pre the Tots craze, so we had hash browns.
I think Tots came and went, but the Tots have had a resurgence.
Yes, Tots, I
think, were big in like
Tots
the 50s.
Are hot right now.
And
hot
then,
Tots.
thanks to Napoleon Dynamite, came back.
True.
All right, then we transitioned to later that night in the apartment, and now Balky is sitting on the couch, and Marianne is there, and Balky's very sad and depressed.
Like consoling him and stroking his hair.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And she's holding his hand, and
she says, "What's wrong?" And he explains to her that he's won the football pool for the past 5 weeks. And Marianne says, "Oh, that would get anybody down."
Look, he's trying to be understanding of her.
And then he puts his head on her shoulder. Yeah. She's still stroking his hair, and he explains that everyone's angry with him for winning, and he doesn't want to play anymore. And Marianne says, "Why don't you just quit?" And he says that he wanted to, but cousin Larry said that would make people angrier because they don't just want to win; they want to beat Balky. And Marianne says, "Why don't you just let them?" And Balky's like, light bulb moment. He says, "How I do that?" And she says, "Well, just pick all the losers. That way you'd still be playing, but someone else would win." And then Balky says, "Marianne, that's brilliant."
This would never have occurred to Balky, I guess, if Marianne hadn't mentioned it. And Marianne goes, "Thanks, Balky. You inspire me," which is real funny. And then Balky sits up and goes, I'm perspiring a little myself
And they
as he
start to
leans
make
in
out,
for a
yeah.
kiss. And just then, Larry bursts in the door like a robot
Yeah.
and walks right up.
He's like crazed.
Yes, he's
This is
crazed, arms
Larry,
to the side.
buggy eyes.
He walks right up to the sofa, like bumps
Yeah.
into the sofa, and he goes, "Hi, Balky, have you filled out your football pick yet?"
Yes.
And Marianne goes, "Hi, Larry." And Larry just goes, "Oh, hi, Marianne, I didn't see you there."
Yeah, he's like so focused and just waiting for these picks.
He's crazed, gambling Larry in his eyes. You can see it.
And Balky says they're about to go to the movies, and Larry's like, "Okay, great. Why don't you just fill out your football pool before you go? I'll take it over to Mr. Gorpley."
He's being helpful.
And Marianne and Balky kind of like give each other a knowing look, and he's like, "Okay, here it goes." And they take the pick sheet and they like kind of giggle to themselves.
They're giggling while he's circling it, and they turn to each other and they do that.
Of course, yeah.
They
They
get a
do
little
a shush sign because, of course, he's picking all the wrong picks, the losers.
He's picking the losers, which Larry Appleton does not know about. This is going to be fantastic.
And so Larry, he finishes, gives it to Larry. Larry's like, "Have a nice evening. Bye-bye." And they leave for the movies. And then as soon as they're out the door, Balky and Marianne are out the door, Larry races over, grabs the pick sheet, and goes to the phone in the kitchen. And he dials the phone, and he's like, and we hear him go, "Hello, is this the mole?" And he says, "This is Larry Appleton. Tom told me I should call." And he says he wants to bet 10 football games, $1,000 a game.
And you hear the audience groan audibly. They all go, "Oh."
And then he says, "That's right, 10,000 big ones."
Oh, boy. The gambling monster has got Larry again.
And we fade to black on that at the end of Act 1.
Oh, he thinks it's a sure thing. And he's bet a lot of money. Listener, you can join this conversation by joining our Facebook group. There's a link in the show description. It's a fun place to hang out, geek out about perfect strangers. And there's episode threads before we record. So you can watch along on Amazon Freevee and leave your thoughts and comments and memories of the show. And we will work it in to the end of the show. And you get to meet lots of other fans. Yeah. It's a fun place.
Moving on to Act 2, what's going to happen with Larry's $10,000 bet?
Oh, boy.
So we are now on Football Sunday evening. And
just like tonight.
But instead of recording a podcast, Balky and Marianne are in the living room on the couch watching a football game on television. Where's Larry? We don't know yet, but we'll find out. And we hear the announcers say the Chiefs beat the Jets 45-3. And Balky cheers. And Marianne's like, "Yay." And Balky's like, "I did it. I lost every game." And Marianne says, "I'm so proud of you."
It's so cute how supportive she is, no matter what.
And Balky says it will be so nice to go to work tomorrow and not have people throw food at me.
Okay, well, he fixed the problem,
And then Marianne asks, "Where's Larry? Why isn't he watching the game?" And we find out from Balky that Larry went to the sports grill because they have 10 television sets there, so you can watch all the games at one time. I thought it was 13 games every week, or did it vary? Does it vary?
It varies because some teams get like a bye week and stuff, and they don't play.
So Larry has gone out to a sports venue, sports
bar, sports bar, lots of TVs, still have those.
Yes.
Buffalo Wild Wings type place. I don't know.
We have many sports bars.
And Balky goes, "I bet he's having the time of his life." And we know he's not. And then suddenly we see that he's not because the door opens and Larry walks in looking like he has just come through like a war.
A zombie.
Yeah, he is stunned, shell shocked. His eyes are bugging out. Like you would have thought he just saw someone get murdered in front of him. And he walks up and they stand up and Balky's like, "Cousin, are you all right?" And Larry goes, "Marianne, could I please talk to Balky alone?" And Marianne goes, "I don't see why not." And she just stands there. And then there's a beat. She goes, "Oh, now. Oh, sure." And she goes,
and I just want to talk about what Marianne's wearing in this.
Oh, yes.
It's a very 80s, like her waist is like tiny and cinched. So she has this like ruffly short skirt that's denim
ruffled layered skirt with like this pink
cinched
blouse
at the waist and like flaring out,
bright pink,
and then a bright pink like poofy blouse also cinched at the waist but poofy above the waist, And it's very...
And her hair is huge, and she's a little top heavy, but maybe the skirt balances it out.
Yeah.
It's quite a silhouette if you think about it.
Yeah.
Very 80s silhouette. So anyways, Marianne leaves. She gives him a kiss, and she leaves. And Larry now turns to Balky, and he's still shocked, and his whole speech delivery is all stilted. He's like, Balky, did you realize you didn't pick one single winning team?
And Balky says, I know, isn't it wonderful? And then he's like, wait a minute, how did you know? And Larry says that he copied his picks. And Balky says, cousin, I'm surprised at you. You know cheaters never win. And Larry's like, I know now.
I know now.
But still he's shocked. How could you lose every game? And Balky says, well, cousin, in a way, it was your idea. He explains that Larry had said that people would not be happy with Balky people would be happy with Balky if they beat him. So he decided to pick all the losers to make everybody happy. And Larry's like, not everybody. And he goes to the couch and he explains to Balky that he used Balky's picks and bet $10,000 with a bookie. And Balky says, you bet $10,000 with a librarian?
That's kind of a funny line.
Which that's what a bookie sounds like.
What's your job? I'm a bookie. Oh, you work at the library? Yeah, I work at the library. I'm a bookie.
And here's the answer to my question earlier. Larry explains that a bookie is someone who takes bets on sporting events. And now he owes this guy $10,000.
He owes a bookie $10,000. This is not good. As Balky goes, and Larry, Balky remembers something from Meepos, which is, this is a great little touch. He goes, cousin, on Meepos, we have one of them guys, Jimmy the Geek. He says, when you bet on the sheep races and you don't pay up, he shaves your head and calls you Baldy in front of your parents. And then he shudders. He goes, it's ugly. It's very ugly. Oh. And Larry's like, well, Balky, this is America. It's a little bit different. When bookies aren't paid, they have been known to break legs. Yeah, this is a serious situation. If Larry owes a bookie $10,000 that he doesn't have, clearly. But the Jimmy the Geek line is a reference. I kind of remember this guy, reference to Jimmy the Greek Snyder, who is a very controversial sportscaster and a bookie in Vegas. And he said he had some comments, but he was kind of a piece of work and said some bad things.
I like that they changed it from Greek
one letter
to geek.
Jimmy the Geek.
Jimmy
the Greek to Jimmy. You know exactly who he's talking about. If in the 80s you would have known Jimmy the Greek.
So Balky, upon hearing that bookies break legs, gets very upset. He says, well, cousin, we can't let them do that. And he jumps up to go call the police.
Uh-oh.
And Larry's like, no, you can't call the police. And Balky says, we have to. What they're going to do is illegal. And then Larry blurts out, so is betting with a bookie.
Oh, my God.
What? And then Balky says, cousin, how could you do something you knew was illegal? And here we have no backstory, no insight into
That's a big question. Why would Larry knowingly place an illegal bet? What's his rationale?
Says, I know, I did it. It was stupid. I'm sorry. But what am I going to do? Balky, he knows my name. He knows where I live. He knows where I keep my knees.
So that's it. Just throw it away. He did a stupid thing.
There was no insight into his psyche.
To be fair, it was pretty easy to just call up a bookie back then if you had a new guy and it was all under the table, and generally you'd be fine. But unless you did something stupid like this is a very
How does he know where he
thing.
Lives?
I'm sure when you place the bet, you have to give him because I mean, especially a bet that large, the mole is going to be like, I need to know everything about you right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get paid. And so Balky asks him, what is he going to do? And Larry says, there's only one thing I can do. Now, I don't know if this is a great move, but this is what he's going to do. He's like, I'll bet another $10,000 on tomorrow night's game. And Balky picks up on this.
Monday Night Football.
There's a Monday Night Football. Balky picks up on the problem of this instantly. He goes, I don't know much about the game, but if they'll break your legs for $10,000, for $20,000, they might break something you really need, which is that a short joke? Is that he giving him a short joke?
Maybe. I don't know. I just
Larry thinks the legs are not necessary. Yeah. So this is not, what are you doing, Larry Apple? You're just digging a deeper hole for yourself on Balky sheep herder's intuition.
But Larry is still working under this assumption, now that Balky has explained himself that he picked the losers on purpose.
So that is also amazing that he got all that right. That's true.
Larry is working under the assumption that Balky still knows how to pick the winners.
Yes, he has this innate, uncanny, special skill.
Realized that Balky has chosen the losers on purpose. So he says, after you pick tomorrow night's winner, I'll be even. And he grabs the paper. He's like, all right, let's get to work. Let's see who's playing. And then Balky snatches the paper away. And he's like, wait a minute, not so fast. And he says the only way he's going to go along with this is if Larry promises to never, and I mean never, ever, ever bet on a football game again. And Larry promises to never, and I mean never, ever, ever, ever bet on a football game again. And then Balky says, and promise you'll take me to Disney World. And Larry says, and I promise I'll take you to Balky.
Balky's like, sorry, it was worth the shot. He took his shot.
Yeah.
He's going to help him anyways. And he gives Larry the paper. And Larry's like, okay, just do whatever you need to do to get your sheepers intuition to get working. And Balky's like, oh, I just need to relax. And Larry's like, oh, you need to relax? Relax? Yeah, just relax. He goes, here, put your feet up. He throws Balky's feet up. He goes, lie down on the sofa here. And he pushes him down on the sofa, pushing his head down. Gives him a pillow. He's like, here, pillow. He puts it behind his head. And Larry's like, anything else? And Balky goes, could you get me Dimitri?
Yay,
and I was like, yeah,
Dimitri's
I
back.
noticed Dimitri back there on the shelf this whole time. He's not wearing a costume.
He could have had like a football jersey.
And also, you'll notice he doesn't have his black nose. Like, there's no nose on this. I don't know if it's a different color or the nose fell off.
Dimitri.
But anyways, Larry grabs Dimitri, gives him to Balky. Balky cuddles it.
Yeah.
And then Balky's like, could you dim the lights? And then Larry goes and turns, remember the orange lamp, the red lamp? It's there.
It's back.
It was fixed. He turns that lamp off. And he goes, okay, all right. He's like, here we go. Ready? And he picks up the paper. He goes, the Packers and the Browns. Who's going to win? Balky's all relaxed.
And Balky goes, he's lying there with Dimitri. He goes, Browns, Packers. Browns are Packers. Browns are Packers. And then he thinks about it, and you see his face change, and he sits up a little, and he says, like, what are my choices again?
And this does not make Larry happy.
And Larry grabs him by the shirt and pulls him up to his
I love when he grabs him by the shirt.
The Browns or the Packers? The Browns or the Packers?
And Balky's like, I don't know, cousin, I can't do it under this much pressure. And then Larry goes, all right, relax. We're relaxing. He goes around and he starts massaging his temples. And he's like, relax. There's no pressure. It's just my life. And he's starting to freak out. And then Balky sits up and Larry's like, the Browns or the Packers? And Balky goes, the Browns.
The Browns?
Yeah.
The Browns. And they just keep repeating, the Browns,
the Browns. It's confirmed. Balky feels good about the Browns.
The Browns. So we cut to the next night. So presumably Larry has called the mole and made this bet.
I'm surprised the mole let him double down on this 10 grand bet on just one game. Like this mole guy, what is he doing?
One game.
That's risky.
Yeah. So we are now on the next night, and Balky and Larry are on the couch watching the football game. And we hear the announcer say that they still have a shot. They still have a shot at winning this game. The Packers have the ball at their own 25. Sails back to pass, chased out of the pocket, going long, intercepted by the Browns.
That's a good thing.
Larry's like, yes. And then Larry explains to Balky that all the Browns have to do now is to win is to run out the 30 seconds on the clock.
It's the end of the game. The Browns have the ball. We're winning. And at this point, they do their high five and reaching in the air and grasping for something. Kind of movement we've seen a couple of times.
Yeah.
And Larry's like, thank you, Balky. I owe you my legs and anything else that may have been broken. Balky says, you're welcome. And Larry's thirsty and he wants to get a soda. He's going to get one for Balky. And he gets up and he starts to walk away behind the couch when the announcer starts the play, this last 30-second play, this very important play. I don't know why he's leaving. At least sit and watch the last 30 seconds.
Presumed that they were going to win.
So we hear the announcer say the ball is snapped and it's fumbled That's not good.
Whoop. Larry stops in his track on his way to the kitchen. He says, fumble.
Then the announcer tells them the Packers have picked up the ball at the 20, and the dude is running, and he's running across the
He's
field.
at the 40.
At this point, Larry has climbed over the back of the couch, and he's sitting watching intently.
It's a foot race. He's at the 50.
And now Larry grabs Balky's head around his neck and pulls him in. He's really getting into this.
He's at the 50.
Now the numbers are getting smaller because he's crossed the middle of the field and he's heading towards the other side.
He's at the 40. The 40. And Larry's like, get him. And he like, okay, so this is the bit of physical comedy in this episode that, so Larry's like, get him. And he like, twists Balky's neck under his arm. He's like, got him in a chokehold and he's grabbing his hair. And he's like, get him, hold him. And the announcer goes, he may go all the way.
No.
And Larry's like, get him, tackle him. And he's like throwing Balky around with every word. Tackle him, get him. And he's like, kill him.
Kill him, he says. Kill him.
The announcer says, he's at the 10. And then he's like, no. And he throws Balky forward. Down to the 5. No. And he pulls Balky back up again. He's down at the 1 yard line. Larry's like, yes. And he throws Balky forward and he like
it
goes
looks
forward
like
to the
Balky's
coffee
head
table.
slams on the coffee table and bounces back up. And Balky's just looking at him like, what are you doing? And Balky's like, is this a good thing? And Larry says, no, it's a bad thing, a very bad thing. Balky, I'm leaving the country. He thinks he's going to have his legs broken. The announcer tells him the Packers have time for one last play. And Larry grabs Balky again. There's the snap, and the announcer says the dude goes back to pass. Larry now throws Balky across his lap, screaming, get him, get him. At this point, he's like grabbing his face with his fingers and like pulling at his face and almost scratching him. And Balky's like, ow.
And Larry's like, go for his knees. And he grabs Balky's like leg and knee.
Yes.
Balky's like, oh, God. And he's like, go for his knees. And he twists Balky's leg.
He turns him so that now Balky is face down on the sofa, right? His legs are near Larry and his body is away from him. And the announcer's like, he scrambles left. And at this point, Larry reaches and grabs the back of Balky's head and pulls him in like a back bend.
Kind of like a,
So he's holding his leg and his hair from behind and pulling him backwards. It's crazy.
Get him. And he's screaming, get him,
He can really hurt Balky right now.
And then he throws Balky aside and like, he actually throws Balky like over the back of the couch and he falls to the floor behind the couch.
He goes, throw a cheerleader at him, Larry says, as he throws him over the back of the sofa.
And then the announcer says there's a tackle at the 5, and he's hit hard. He fumbles into the end zone. There's a pileup. Whoever comes up with the ball is going to be the winner.
Oh, God, this is terribly exciting now. Larry's like biting his fingers, and Balky pops up from behind the couch because he was thrown there. He goes, who has the ball? Larry goes, I don't know. As he throws up his arms and smacks Balky right in the face, knocking him back down again.
And we know that he smacked him hard because we hear this sound effect.
You hear it when he puts his hands up here. Like it kind of takes you right out of it.
To me, it was so blatant. I was like, why one rant? We had that once in another episode.
They occasionally have used these cartoon sound effects.
What are these sound effects?
That is a literal Three Stooges cartoon sound effect.
Yeah.
So we know, I mean, what was it going to sound like? A slap? You know, you could have done a slap, but they just like, we'll just put it in.
It was really loud. It was really blatant to me. Okay.
It's so funny.
Then he hits Balky in the face and it knocks him back down to the ground. And then the announcer says, they're peeling off the players. The Browns have the ball.
Oh, thank God.
The Browns win it. The Browns win it. And Larry, of course, is ecstatic. He's like, yes, Balky. And he looks around. He's like, Balky? Where's Balky? And then Balky pops up from behind the couch again. And Larry pulls him back over. And he's like, I won. I get to keep my knees.
Yeah, he's relieved. And this is a time of happiness and joy, isn't it?
Yes. So, of course, what do we need when we are happy? We hear Balky say, oh, cousin, now we are so happy. We do the dance of joy.
Except they stand up and they're in between the coffee table and the sofa. There's not enough room to do the dance of joy there.
This little coordinated like pre-dance shuffle.
to move them left to that area. It's great. It's like a little heel toe, shuffle back to the
then
thing.
They do the dance of joy.
They do the full dance of joy, and of course that means it ends with Balky catching Larry, and the audience they always get an applause. And then you can see Balky carrying Larry over. He seems a little heavier this episode because he seems to struggle. And he tosses him down.
And we go back to the couch, and then we hear our lesson time music, and we hear Larry literally say, Balky, I've learned my lesson. I will never bet on a football game again. And Balky says, that's good. Sports are for fun. They shouldn't be life-threatening. Oh, Balky, you don't know much about football, do you?
Yes, that's an odd comment about football.
Yes.
Especially now.
Well, maybe all that stuff wasn't
I don't think they knew
big a deal
they
in
had
the
no
80s.
concussion rules and protocols back then.
Larry thanks Balky for coming to his rescue. And Balky says, you're welcome. And then we hear the announcer on the television say, coming up, and next week I'll be flying to Atlanta. Boy, will my arms be tired.
It's the joke.
And Balky leans forward and he's so excited. He's like, that's it. Atlanta.
I'm still not getting what he missed. He thought Atlanta was the missing thing. I just flew in from so-and-so, and boy, are my arms tired. Right? Like, yes. So old joke. Roll credits. Listener, check out our TeePublic shop. Visit danceofjoypod.com/shop where you can get some swag with the Dance of Joy logo on it. T-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, cell phone cases, pillows, tote bags, a lot of fun things. Get it while they're hot. And there's always sales on the TeePublic. So keep going back there. I love how the episode starts and ends with
this through
the
line
joke,
of the joke
that's run. That was kind of funny.
That's
going
not something
through.
we've seen before in this show.
Yeah.
But it was funny.
And apparently around this time, Mark Lynn Baker, in a case of life imitating art, won some kind of football pool in which he picked all the winning games of the regular season and won a trophy and even brought it to like an interview on Pat Sajak's show. So Larry was the one who should have just trusted his intuition, maybe ultimately. Not Balky. I don't know. What did you think about this episode? There's some funny bits.
There were some funny bits.
We get a dance of joy.
We get a dance of joy, but we didn't really learn anything new about. I mean, Larry's gambling problem was resurfaced from before.
It would have been nice if they tied something back to that. Like, Balky could have been like, Cousin, don't you remember last time this happened?
Yeah.
And I think Balky knows what a football pool is. I believe they mentioned it in that episode.
Oh, yeah. And if Larry learns a lesson every time he has a gambling accident, he sure forgets them pretty quickly.
That lesson lasted exactly 1 week, and he went right back to gambling. Also, are they still taking karate lessons? I wonder.
Also, why is everyone at the Chronicles so into football?
Well, look, that I can buy because it happens at my office, but now we'll get to PS
but
today.
You
we'll
work
talk
in
about
a sports office,
That's a good point.
Yeah, but I guess newspapers, I don't know.
Even you'd be surprised that like little crews, they always have pools on things. People just like to friendly bet on everything.
I've ever had an office pool on anything. But
what's funny is I have done this once. A few times I tried to get into the pool. What we do is there's a thing called squares for the Super Bowl.
Oh, I've heard about it.
Where it's a random grid and you put in your initials and you get a set of numbers. And if the score at the end of any quarter in the football game in the Super Bowl lands on those two numbers, you win money, or the reverse is money.
Interesting, yeah.
Fantasy football is kind of the thing I think that's taken over this now, fantasy football leagues. There was a whole TV show on FX called The League about a fantasy football league. And now a lot of gambling has been legalized.
Yeah.
And so there's apps like FanDuel. You can bet on games kind of on your phone, and you're winning hundreds of dollars.
Will the tech bros who run the apps come and break your knees if you don't?
No, it's all connected to your bank account. So they just take the money right out and stuff, I believe.
Interesting. I thought it was a decent, a little bit of a surface level story, but
one time I did this when I think it was some other pool, and I picked what teams' logos were better designed than the other logo. It was color schemes. I liked. But speaking of which, the Browns or the Packers, right? The Cleveland Browns. This bugs me like to no end.
Yeah.
I'm a graphic designer, right? All football
Yeah.
teams have these nicely designed logos. The logo for some reason, the Cleveland Browns don't have a logo. Their logo is literally an orange helmet. Like there's no like, how about a bee with some text effects? Like everybody has a logo.
Their logo is the helmet.
Is an orange football helmet with nothing on it. It doesn't. I don't get it. Why don't you get a logo, Cleveland Browns? What are you doing? Your logo is orange.
They have like a.
That's it.
They have like a little.
There's a little like
leprechaun.
yeah, it's like a little elf
leprechaun
thing. But put that on your helmet.
Yeah.
What's your logo? Orange. Okay, great.
An orange.
You didn't really think about this a lot. It's the only one. It's just weird. So that always bugs me.
It's funny that they're called the Browns and
And
the
it's
logo is orange.
Why are you called the oranges? Football makes no sense.
Football makes no sense.
They don't even use their feet. One guy does, and that's his only job, and nobody else can use their
We
feet.
are talking about American football, yes.
It makes more sense for soccer to be called football.
Yes.
What is wrong? Yes, it is, except for here. But again, a huge sport. So, yeah, overall, it's all right episode.
It was an all right episode. It was. I appreciated the physical comedy at the end, the running joke about flying in from wherever.
Manic Larry is always fun when he gets crazy.
Larry.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that sort of like twist of letting Balky win for 5 weeks, having everyone mad at him. Then he decides to
lose the one time Larry decides to like place a lot of money.
Yeah.
Why'd you stop at 10,000, Larry? Why not bet 50,000 he came? Well, come on.
10,000 was a lot.
It was a lot. He could have bet a lot more. What did our listeners think of this episode, sister?
Cousin Nicole Stoner writes, I'm not a football fan. This episode, if anything, reminds me why I can't stand fantasy football leagues or other sports betting
What were we
apps.
just talking about?
It doesn't help that being from Michigan, we have two Big Ten football teams and the Lions. I appreciate Balky's optimism that a lion is a good thing, though.
I couldn't tell you who's good. I don't follow football. Who knows?
And cousin John Adama writes, a simple enough conceit, though it seems as if everyone could have just formed a pool without Balky instead of treating him so poorly.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. I like the nod to Larry's gambling problem and the fact that all of Larry's issues were self-imposed.
Yes.
It's a B for me with a plus added solely for MLB's antics watching the Green Bay game.
Oh, my God. He almost snapped Balky's back in half.
This is a good point. They could have just, like, excluded him.
Don't let him in. Give him a fake one. Just, you know, he didn't win. I don't know. Make a separate one.
Yeah, so that's kind of along the lines of our thoughts, too, from our listeners. Don't be ridiculous was not said, but
of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
But we did have a dance of joy. So
we did have a dance of joy and a pretty good Dimitri appearance with no black nose as he cuddles him and cradles him as he's trying to relax.
It would have been funny if Dimitri had an orange helmet on.
Yeah, they could have done something, or like I don't know what a bookie wears, or he could have had some kind of football gear on.
Yeah.
Yay, sports ball.
Yay, sports ball. Okay, now it's time for the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we discuss, could we remake this episode today in modern times? Would it hold up? I think it would.
Yeah, people still get into football like this. They are, I mean, it's still a huge...
Wait, but are there still bookies who break knees?
No, well, so there might be some.
There might not.
No, you could do like the legal sports betting apps, but as things are, there's always a black market.
Yeah, the stakes aren't high enough in the episode unless there's a risk of some physical harm.
That's a good point. So they'd have to find some kind of guy who knows a guy. You want to get in for the big money. Somebody would have to be like, forget all the sports betting apps. You want the big money. I got a guy.
Like racetrack betting, don't people still...
Well, there's off-track horses betting. You could go to Arlington racetrack here and bet on the horses. And that's fun. But you pay up front, right? Whatever.
Right.
So what would be the physical threat? Maybe one of his friends is involved with the mafia or something. Gets him tangled.
It would need some tweaks, yeah.
Could you do a running joke? You'd have to update the joke.
No, I think that would still hold up today. But
you could kind of do it today, but you're right. You need stakes. What would the stakes be?
So, like,
just fell in with the wrong people.
Make a bad bet on the apps. well, first of all, it's not illegal. Secondly, it's not illegal anymore. And
Yeah.
secondly, no one's going to come break your knees.
And you can bet on, dude, you can bet on all sorts of crazy stuff now. Like, in Hollywood, the amount a movie will open to.
Oh, wow.
And then there's like all these little things you can bet on, like who makes the first catch, who gets the first touchdown.
Wow.
Like you can bet on so many things in these apps. It's crazy. So I could see I could get
We'd
addicted.
have like a whole different episode about a
I think it would be
fantasy
about
football
gambling
league
addiction.
and squares and
Yeah.
all this stuff. Yeah.
And maybe the fantasy, like your league would still get mad at you if you keep
Yeah.
winning. But like these people get into it. They hold
Right.
drafts and like they draft players, and it's just too much work. I'm like, oh my god, you have to literally follow every team and every player and the
Yeah.
stats. No, and there's football for baseball and fantasy leagues for baseball, every
Yeah.
sport. So you would have to tweak it like that.
This exact episode probably
Like I said,
not.
FX the League was a whole
Probably
sitcom.
won't happen
about
again
football
today,
leagues.
but something similar with some changes. Yeah.
Join us next week when Bronson Pinchot plays himself as an identical brother. No, identical cousins? Is that even a thing? Can you have identical cousins? I don't think so, so it should be hilarious. In the meantime, you can support this show. You can buy us a virtual coffee. You can give back to all the nostalgic fun. Visit danceofjoypod.com/support. It's right on our website. There's a buy us a coffee button. We appreciate everyone's support, and it all goes back to making sure the show continues and we finish all 8 seasons. We're going to get to the end of this. We're getting there.
What are we going to do after?
I don't know. We'll have to take suggestions
We're gonna have
from
to watch
the
more football on
listener.
Sunday night.
No, only if I'm betting on it. It's the only way I'll watch sports is if I have money on it. Like, it's the only way it makes it interesting. Otherwise, who cares?
And of course, everyone is always welcome to visit us on our website, danceofjoypod.com. There you can find all the links to all the places where you can listen to our podcast, where you can like and subscribe and leave us a rating or a review. You can also press a button right there on the website and leave us a voice message. Tell us if you bet on football games and how that's been for you. We'd love to hear from you, or you can send us an email at danceofjoypod@gmail.com. And you are more than welcome to follow us on all our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Dance of Joy Pod. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
Always pick the better looking logo when you're betting on sports, because graphic design is important.
It's true.
What the most important thing is to share the show. Of course, listener, share it with a friend, share it with your football fantasy league. Share it with your bookie if you have a
Share
bookie.
it with your bookie so he won't break your knees.
Yes, and wear knee pads anytime you make some bets, just in case.
Share it with the doctors in the emergency room after the bookie breaks your
After the
knees.
bookie, it's such a gangster thing. I'm gonna take out your knees.
Yeah. Well, we're getting old. They can have my knees at this point.
I've had them replaced anyways.
Yeah.
They're not real. They're titanium. Go ahead.
And
take a
that's
swing.
our show for today. Now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey, 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 hey.